Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Major Push Wrestling, the talk show where we give wrestling the major push that it deserves. I am your host, Papa Gino Nashef, and I am joined today by two of my buddies from the No DQ review, Matthew and Dave. And we're here to talk to you about one topic in particular, time permitting. We will address some other things. But before we get into all that, I'm going to go around the horn and have everybody introduce themselves. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Gino. Thanks for having me. And we got three of the four of the No DQ Florida chapter with us. We're just missing Dwayne, but it's good to have Matthew with us. Have a good talk tonight.
Absolutely. And I believe it's the three of us going to Backlash together. So that's going to be very fun indeed. Matthew, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I had the day off today because of Good Friday, so that's always nice. And you mentioned it. We'll be meeting up here in a month for Backlash. And last time I was on the show, it was right after we did Saturday night's main event, which shockingly was a year ago now. It's been that long. But look forward to the topic and look forward to talking to, the Florida chapter as we have now been dubbed.
Yes, sir. Major Push Wrestling has had its ups and downs, recording availability. We've had stream issues. We've had all these things that we're working to overcome, but we have persevered and we are back, and we are going to be back on a regular schedule once a week. We'll most likely be recording Wednesdays and airing Thursdays until we can get this thing going live. So stay tuned for that. Thank you to everybody who is watching. Do not forget to like and subscribe. It's super important, helps grow the channel, and leave a comment on what we're talking about, and we'd be happy to address that in the comment section with you. So today, there's a few different things that I wanted to be able to talk about. And after mulling it over and taking some information and insights from my fellow panelists here, decide to table some of those discussions for another day, maybe when we have a more full panel. But the topic that rose to the top today is the one regarding the big news from April 1st, 2 days ago, as of this recording on that Wednesday. The No DQ chat was blowing up. People were saying Chris Jericho is returning to AEW, not WWE. Now, it's really tough, especially with wrestling related news, to believe anything that you hear or even see on April Fool's Day. However, at 8 p.m. Eastern that very evening, we didn't have to wait very long for confirmation. We got Chris Jericho pseudo opening the show at AEW Dynamite. I say pseudo because it was Tony Schiavone, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He was introducing the episode and he got cut off by the pyrotechnics, and it felt very wonky. I don't know if they were intentionally trying to make it feel like it was underproduced and bootleg, but then we had Jericho's music hit, the Judas song by Fozzy, where he's the lead singer of. Amazing song. Still think that Break the Walls Down would be the choice if he was going to WWE, but it seems he has re-signed with AEW. So we will discuss this. Now, my biggest issue with him re-signing with AEW is that I've been predicting him to come to WWE this year. Now, I'm going to go over why I think it makes sense and why I think maybe it doesn't make sense, but we're going to start with the stuff that does seem to make sense. And this is based on the rumor mill, nobody knows for sure. The contract is the contract, all this stuff, but based on what seems to be going on, AEW seems to have offered him more money and a longer contract. And usually in sports, any kind of sports or any kind of business, more money and a longer guarantee is basically all it takes. Right now, we as WWE fans and wrestling fans and AEW fans, but primarily we know Chris Jericho from WCW and then WWE first ever undisputed WWF champion, all these types of things. And we were all really expecting him to come back. Now I'll throw it over to you guys here in a moment to see, did you expect him to come back? Did you expect him to stay in AEW? But if you're being offered more money and you're given more time to do that, I believe Jericho feels like he has more than just this year left in him. And we all know if he was going to go back to WWE, he was going to get fed to Gunther and retire this year. Period of discussion. It might have even been as soon as this month's WrestleMania. So you could say, well, Gunther was off TV for 3 weeks. The rumor was that Jericho was in talks with WWE before his return on April 1st. So the chances are that they were probably trying to get him and get him to agree to essentially being retired immediately by Gunther, or maybe somewhere down the line, maybe a Money in the Bank, the show that he created. But that's another thing of why I feel like it's bad that we're not getting him in WWE. But as far as the good side of things, the things that make sense, he obviously didn't want to be fed to Gunther. He wants creative control, which he's going to have more of in AEW. He's going to be paid more, probably not work as much, even though he's in fantastic shape. Clearly, he's been taking care of himself lately, where the last time we saw him about a year ago in AEW, he looked like the end was near. Now, I'm going to throw it over to you guys before I discuss the negatives associated with him re-signing with AEW. The positives are, again, we're going to get this great content. He's going to be more free. We'll see what he's able to do with these guys. He is the first ever AEW World Heavyweight Champion as well. So I'm going to throw it over to Matthew. Matthew, I believe you watch AEW pretty regularly, more than I do, but we had the rumors. I was even saying, don't believe everything that you read today. And then he proved me wrong. What were your thoughts when you saw that he was actually appearing in AEW, which basically confirms he's not going to be in WWE for at least another year or two?
Well, I was kind of curious because, what really stemmed from this is we all expected him to show up. What was it? The opening of Raw, or the first Raw of Netflix, is when we first started to really hear the rumors that he could be coming. We hadn't seen him in a year. Even his next Jericho Cruise had almost no AEW talent listed on it. So, and the couple interviews he's done cryptically, he sounded like he was done. And then, we speculated he was going to show up at the Raw. He didn't show up. We, voted it, we predicted, could he show up at the Rumble? He didn't. And then around the same time, we got the rumor that his contract was frozen by Tony Khan. Now, if that is true, Jericho is a businessman. He's a shrewd businessman. He's been doing this for 30 years. I see if his contract was frozen, he told Tony, fine, I'll work those days. We don't know how long that contract is for. So I'm thinking that's what's going on. I'm thinking he's like, okay, I'll come up with a new gimmick, a new idea, because he always will. And he's like, I'll work these dates. It could be another year. It could be another 2. I don't know if he signed a new contract. We already know he's one of the highest paid guys in AEW, as he's a founding father and basically an EVP in all but name. So it was interesting. But yeah, I was curious when he showed up and, it confirmed it. But one of the biggest things that surprised me was last time we saw Jericho, it was the AEW fans, not the E-drones or whatever people want to say. It was the AEW fans that were booing him out of the building and telling him to please retire. So that's a big factor too, is are they going to accept this new Jericho a year later? Is this a we can't miss you if you don't go away situation and now they love him, or not? But it's funny that you've seen comments too. Everybody's like, oh, well, WWE fumbled again. What did they fumble? If his contract was frozen, he could talk to WWE all he wanted, but there's nothing he could do. So I'm curious where this goes, and I'm curious what he's going to do. He's done everything there is to do in AEW, and the last couple gimmicks haven't been good, and he hasn't really put anyone over. So is it more of the same, or are we going to finally get that Jericho that will put people over and elevate this young talent that they finally are starting to see. Now, yeah, I do expect eventually he will have that Hall of Fame moment in WWE. He will have that last match in WWE, but it looks like it's probably going to be at least another year or two. I'm just curious, like I said, where this is going to lead for him in AEW because they kind of don't need him right now.
That's a very, very good point. You brought up a lot of good points, specifically with the frozen contract. Um, it's almost been a year since he's been away, right? So theoretically, his contract should be up by the end of this year if he left about a year ago and his contract got frozen. So theoretically, by the end of everything we were hearing about, oh, his contract's up at the end of last year. That's why we thought he could be on the first Raw on Netflix for 2026. So theoretically, he could be coming a year later. Like you said, and like I had mentioned, it's all we don't really know the nitty gritty, the details of it all yet. But the reading the tea leaves, it seems like that is very astute, Matthew. And you're right, he kind of has done all he could do in AEW. You're right, the fans were chanting like "Please retire," and that's not heel heat, that's go away heat. And there's always that big discussion about it. First of all, any noise is good noise in wrestling, but as a fan or as a performer, you don't want people basically saying "hang up your boots." Like nobody in WWE history has ever had that chanted at them. So for all of the smart wrestling fans that prefer wrestling and know the business and all that stuff that AEW fans believe they are, that like how dare you disrespect him? And then he came back and I was listening. Are they going to boo? No, they're cheering. They're kind of happy to see Jericho. All these things are singing this song, but it does feel like the fans don't really want him there, and maybe the company doesn't need him. I would argue the company needs all of the Hall of Fame worthy talent that it could get. But let's throw it over now to Dave here. Dave, what do you think about all this? You've heard what I had to say. You heard what Matthew has added, and you've seen what you've seen online and through the chats. What is your thought process on all of this?
Oh my, Matthew had great points. You have great points. We got a curveball. We definitely got a curveball. I'm one of the ones that kept saying Jericho was showing up. Jericho was showing up at the Rumble. And then you heard, like Matthew said, about the frozen contract. Now, I up until a few weeks ago, when I got rid of Sling, I've been watching AEW every week too, and I'm not sure if I read everything right because I watched the highlights of when Jericho showed up. I don't know if this has any meaning, but when he said I'm home, did he mean I'm home to AEW or to Winnipeg? He didn't say too much, remember. It was very and when I was watching the reviews and stuff, they said he didn't say much, so I went back and looked at it and I'm thinking, is it a one-off? Is it a short thing? Does he have less time than we think? Is this another curveball? Because we have been seeing the hints from WWE with the Jericho comments, the things from Jericho. Is somebody working all of us at this point on where he really is going to be? Because we really don't know. And you're right, he did get shared, and they were mentioning it on shows that night. If you go, if you're gone for a while, you're going to miss me, and that's what happened, and that's why he was going to share. But then somebody's also brought up he was in Canada. What's going to happen in the next place he goes in the U.S.? Is it going to be cheers? Is it going to be the go away heat, like you said, like just retire? He does look in phenomenal shape. Very true, because he let himself go for a while there, and now he's built himself back up. I mean, he's 55 years old. He looks better than I did at 25. So I don't think he's meant to wrestle a lot. That's the other thing. Are they going to use him in commentary? Because Matthew's 100% correct. They don't have room for him. They got to make room for the young people there. So maybe he's going to be in commentary. I wish he would replace what's his name, the Matt's guy. But because He's annoying as a commentary. But we don't know really the true story yet until we hear more because Jericho. Jericho's always wanting to keep a step ahead of everybody. Maybe not the 20 steps that Rock thinks he's ahead of everybody else, like he said a year ago, but he's going to surprise people, whether it be good or bad. It's going to be a surprise as long. Now, the good is that he is an AEW original, and they've lost a lot of the main originals at times. So that's good in a case because they could use the name recognition, whether it be to promote, and not necessarily wrestle very often. Just wrestle once in a while. He doesn't need to be wrestling every week, that's for sure. But he is definitely, I have no doubt 100% he's going to end up back in WWE. It's just a matter of when at this point. And if this contract is for the rest of the year, if it was a one-off and he just wanted to show up in Canada and get his last hurrah in AEW before he leaves, I think we'll find out in the coming weeks, as long as he doesn't bring back the gimmick that he had. Hi guys, don't that learning tree. That's one of the ones that totally failed him. But he's had so many good ones. You're bound to hit a failure at one point or another. But as far as I'm concerned, we just have to, at this point, like Aaron will say in No DQ, we have to wait and see, let it play out at this point because on what's going to really happen. Because maybe we'll find out some more next Wednesday because hopefully they have him come back and talk a little and see what he's got to say other than I'm home. We got to see more at this point. That's my opinion, at least.
I agree, right? Because it wasn't lost upon me that it was in Canada and saying I'm home could be a workaround for, I'm not lying, but I'm also not talking about AEW, right? I think that this is going to take more than until after the summer for us to really be sure. But if the contract is frozen, then it will presumably be up at the end of the year for all the time that he's missed, which was essentially from last year to this point in time. He's probably going to play that out until the end of the year. And then if it's one and done, we'll see. I don't expect United States crowds or any other crowds to be booing him at this point. I think if he was going to come back with the Hi Guys learning tree gimmick, he would have done that. Like, because you don't have to say much to do. You can just say, "Hi guys, I'm back, I'm home." So I doubt he's going to continue that. See, to me though, that it worked for me. Was it the coolest gimmick? No. Did the fans and live attendance hate it and everybody was crapping on him? Sure. But 30 years from now, when we all get together at the No DQ reunion, we could be greeting each other like, "Hi guys." Like that is the type of stuff. So even when Chris Jericho's stuff doesn't work, it still works. So it's frustrating to me that if he wasn't hurt, that he went away because of the crowd chanting for him to go away, and then did his Fozzy tour. Obviously, you mentioned the Jericho Cruise. There's no AEW names on it. I also think that that's probably a reason why he decided to maybe stick around. Maybe WWE wouldn't be letting him do the cruise, or maybe they wouldn't be letting him use WWE talent to do that because, all things considered, it is a risk for a company to let your athletes perform in the open water, right? You never know what could potentially happen. It's, cruise ships, especially higher up, they're relatively stable, but you never know. And the last thing you want is, you know, somebody coming on there and hurting themselves. WWE's already got enough of that going on. But so yeah, I mean, I think that the cruise is going to continue. That's a great thing about him being in AEW. He's probably still going to be able to tour. He's going to use the same music, which is great for his character now. Now on to the maybe not so great things. So what if he never comes back to WWE? I mean, do I think he won't ever come back and wrestle. I think there's a really good chance that it doesn't happen. Will he eventually come back and sign a Legends deal and be inducted into the Hall of Fame? I believe that is without a doubt 100% going to happen, whether it's within the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever. I do believe we will get Chris Jericho in another WWE video game in his rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, a lot of people sleep on Chris Jericho as an actual great in wrestling. Like, he's wrestled for all these companies. He's the first ever champion for AEW, the first ever undisputed champion for WWE, beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night. He invented Money in the Bank. He stole the show with CM Punk the night that John Cena and The Rock wrestled at WrestleMania 28. I know, I was there. And all of those things. But my issue is like, I mean, do we really need Chris Jericho to wrestle? He could come, like you said, do commentary. He could come in, be a manager for a younger talent who maybe isn't the best on the mic. But like, I really would like to see the list of Jericho again. I would like to see all of the, Y2J, the light up jacket, the doing the stuff, the talk is Jericho, or the highlight reel, or whatever it was called, his talk show in WWE. Like, I think there's a lot that can be done. And in today's era where there's 3 hours of SmackDown and 2.5 hours of Raw, I mean, so it's like 2.5 hours each, but commercials add on. I think that there is a place for him to exist on either roster, and even in AEW. He might not need to wrestle for the main belt. They don't need to make room for him. They have shorter programs, but you could have a 10-minute interview segment with somebody. Like, all of these types of things that you can do with Chris Jericho as a talent, as a name, as a brain, all of those things. And honestly, his match, Alpha Omega, him versus Kenny Omega, I believe it was in New Japan at the time or whatever it was. Or maybe it was right when AEW was first starting. It's tough to remember. I think it was like right at 2018. But that was like the match of the decade type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we're almost a decade removed from that. But he's still a great storyteller. And when he's given the freedom to do what he wants, he's brilliant with it. There's this idea that, if Vince was still there, maybe he'd be coming back, but we don't know. Again, if his contract is frozen, there's nothing he can do about it. If he decided to re-sign with AEW, that's where, like you said, Dave, in the coming days, in the coming weeks, hopefully we have more information so we can understand. Did he re-sign, or is he just honoring, because we know AEW and WWE, so I don't like to just paint AEW with a bad brush here. They both like to, if you're hurt and you miss dates, we are going to extend your contract because we didn't have the utilization of it. So, but if he never comes back, I think that would be a shame. I would love to see him wrestle one more match and do a true retirement at like a WrestleMania or a Money in the Bank or a SummerSlam or one of these big events. The only problem is it's all signs are pointing to Gunther retiring him. And like, that's probably not what he wants to have happen. Maybe he wants the career killer gimmick to die down. Well, we never know, but maybe I'm missing some things as far as some more of the bad, but I'm going to throw it over now right back to you, Dave. If he never returns to WWE, is that a problem?
I think it wouldn't be good. I think he really does have to go back there. I mean, I was watching stuff back from WCW a while back. And if you think about it, if it wasn't for Eric Bischoff not thinking he was a main event guy, what would have happened? Because Jericho originally left WCW to go to WWF at the time, or WWE, it might have been by then, because he wasn't being pushed main event. And the story, watching back on some of those shows, because he wanted to go against Goldberg. And Bischoff, even on his show, said he didn't think he was that material. I mean, if you think, what would happen if that doesn't happen? Because he goes to WWE, that first show he was on, and the countdown, this guy it was money from the beginning when he came to the WWE. And he, like you said, he's probably more creative than most wrestlers out there. And you're right. I mean, the gimmick, I didn't like the gimmick, the last one, but you're right. People are always saying, hi, guys. So it's like a commercial with a bad slogan. You don't forget it. And I think it would be a crime that he doesn't come back there. Even though, because even Cody showed he helped start AEW, but he came back eventually. So, in my opinion, it would be a crime that he doesn't come back. And I still think, yeah, he might just come back for the Hall of Fame. But like you, I want to see that last match. And it could be he's waiting for Gunther the thing to quiet down, because I don't think Gunther should retire him. I think he should come back and have a match against other people. I don't think he should be retired by Gunther. I hope that thing dies down soon, because I think it just needs a few of the people to retire, and that's it. Because how long can that gimmick work, really? Because
That's
then
a great
Gunther's
point.
going to be he's going to be pigeonholed in that instead of being the best wrestler like he was in the beginning when he came in with Imperium. This guy was a heel who didn't cheat. You start seeing him cheat against AJ. I want to see the Gunther heel that wins just because he's a badass. That's it. You know.
I completely agree with you on that. And I fear that until SummerSlam passes, the Gunther career killer stuff isn't going to die down until later in the year, which could be perfect timing for him to come back. I mean, I would love to see him just do promo battles against guys like Trick Williams, like things
Mm-hmm.
like that. We could have matches with Carmelo, with Javon, all of these things he can maybe pass some of his moves on to other people. The sky's the limit. But like you said, I mean, there's really like what is he left? What is there left for him to do in AEW other than collect a paycheck and have fun and have work a light schedule? As a talent, that that's all that it should matter. Like, if these guys want to pay me to come out and cut 5 minute promos, I mean, look at Roman. He doesn't even come out until there's 6 minutes left in the broadcast and fights for a little bit, maybe here or there. Like, that's cushy, man. All you got to do is not fall asleep until 10:30, 10 o'clock, whatever. So, I mean, that's a pretty cushy gig. And I don't think any of us would pass that up, even if we weren't truly home. Now, Matthew, I'm going to throw it over to you for final thoughts here. Do you think do you think there's a world that exists where he does not like ever come back to WWE? Because like theoretically, if AEW has the Hall of Fame and they induct Jericho into it, would they sign him to a Legends deal where he can't go over there? Or do you think Jericho would be that foolish? Because I think that if either way, like if he signs with the WWE for Legends deal or he signs with AEW, that would be the nail in the proverbial coffin, so to speak. I mean, I think that if it expired, because it's 5 years usually Legends deal, that AEW would still call him as soon as it expires and be like, "Come do Hall of Fame with us real quick," whatever, whatever. So, Matthew, what do you think?
Well, the golden rule of pro wrestling, never say never. I think one day we will at least get the Jericho Hall of Fame induction. Hopefully he's there in person and it's not a Legends thing. But as for the final match, I think it could happen. It might be one of his last matches. I'm I'm kind of with you guys. I love Gunther, but I think they pushed the Legend Killer thing too quickly, too much, and now it's kind of burnt out. But as for now, Jericho's going to be in AEW. I worry, is Sammy Guevara going to suddenly come back and be one of his lackeys? That's a negative. Sammy needs to, you know, those certain guys, Garcia, Wheelie, all of them need to kind of not be gravitated back to Jericho. And he is creative, but sometimes that creative freedom is also a negative, and we've seen that as well in AEW. But the man always is reinventing himself. I've been watching old videos of him during Smoky Mountain, where he got his start. You know, He's been in ECW. He's been WCW. He's been everywhere but TNA. So, I mean, he's had one of the longest and most legendary careers in just about every company that's ever existed. And that means a lot. But yeah, I think eventually we will get that Hall of Fame induction. We will get that last match, but it could be 2 years from now. It could be 5 years from now. I don't know if we'd go 10 years because I don't know if he'll be wrestling into his 60s, but he could. But
We've
yeah,
seen it done.
I mean, Billy Gunn, but yeah,
Sting.
for Sting, but yeah. And I know Tony will, even if he by chance does somehow go to WWE, I think Tony will make him one of the first legends in some way. And who knows, maybe by then, maybe WWE and AEW can finally work together and he might be the first guy to have a dual legend contract. But that's, 5, 10 years from now. But for now, we just have to see where things go with Jericho in AEW. Is he going to wrestle? Is he going to cut promos? I would love to see him in WWE doing stuff with fellow Canadians like Joe Hendry, or Ethan Page,
I'm sorry, isn't Joe Hendry Scottish?
or yeah, he is Scottish. Sorry,
No, it's
there.
okay.
Yeah,
It's like his
yep,
whole thing being
yeah,
Scottish.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I
But
did
yeah,
that. Brain
Ethan
fart, but
Page, you've got Kevin Owens again,
yeah.
Sami Zayn, right? The
Y- y-
list goes on and on.
And like you
Professional friendship.
And like you said, past that legacy to maybe past the legacy, properly past the wall of Jericho or the Lion Tamer to a new lion. Maybe someone gets dubbed the new lion or something like that. And that's where they get their start. And Jericho is a mentor. That would, I think, be a great role. But right now, we have to see what the cornerstone is going to be and how it goes. I also noticed that last Wednesday they called him the demo god again, and we see how well that worked out. But yeah, for right now, we're just kind of in a holding pattern and waiting to see what happens. If this is a short term run, if this is a long term run, but at least we'll get eyes on AEW, which they have been in the upswing. So we'll see if this is a positive or a negative to all that.
Sure. And you mentioned on Wednesday, they seem to not be referring to him as Chris Jericho. They seem to just be referring to him as Jericho. The shirt says just Jericho. The Titantron says just Jericho. The commentators are saying Jericho. So I'm wondering if that is alluding to something maybe that he would be WWE bound. But yeah. So all in all, this just happened the other day. I didn't buy into it because I thought it was an April Fool's thing, and I was made to be the fool. So it is what it is, but we have to wait and see. And like Dave said, like Matthew was mentioning, we are going to have to wait a few weeks to see what's going on with all of this, what the truth comes out about the contracts. I mean, Jericho is one of the main voices of Beyond the Ring or Dark Side of the Ring as well. So you notice there's no WWE guys on those shows. So maybe Jericho just feels like he's able to do more extracurricular stuff while under contract with AEW. And again, from a talent perspective, I get it. From a selfish fan boy perspective, I would love for him to not be doing any of that and just strictly come back to WWE. But that's selfish, and man's got to do what he's got to do to provide for his family. And he's local to Tampa. So I'm going to CVV live, and there's a chance that we might get his interview the night before Backlash. So that would be super fun.
I'll
But
be
yeah,
with
so
you there.
it would be very, very sick. And yeah, so I believe, and we're all going to Backlash. So we have plenty of time to talk about that. So I'm going to throw it around for you guys to do any plugs that you have. Matthew, where can the people find you?
I mean, I'm on Facebook. That's about it. And I'm on, check out No DQ. That's kind of our central hub. That's where you'll
Mm-hmm.
find me doing the reviews, predictions, things like that.
Yeah, and Matthew's all over the nodq.com articles in the comment section. So if you say something that he disagrees with, he will let you know. And that's the best thing about being a wrestling fan. So go check him out on nodq.com and Facebook. Dave, I know you don't really like to plug anything, but where can the people find you?
Same thing as Matthew. I'm not many places other than Facebook, and I'm over around No DQ. I get a comment on Matthew's stuff a lot. and I'll be with him. I think he'll be with me on predictions for AEW next Thursday. So you can find us there on the No DQ prediction show for the next AEW pay per view, and find me and Gino on, and all over AEW, all over No DQ, all of us, and we'll plug him, plug No DQ, and great being with you, Gino.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video, share with a wrestling friend. We're bringing you new content every single week. We're going to be talking about wrestling, sharing our opinions, and putting on a pretty darn good show, if I do say so myself. So, from everybody here, from Matthew to Dave to me, I appreciate your viewership and support. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.